The article reads, a short time ago, Inti Creates boss was asked in an interview if he could remake a game featuring a Nintendo character. His response caused quite a stir as he picked Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, the second title in the Zelda game series. Given that we've seen Cadence of Hyrule pretty recently, taking into account Metroid Samus Returns, a remake handled by an external team and a Western one at that, you might assume that such a comment could potentially lead to something happening, especially as Inti Creates has previously enjoyed a positive relationship with Nintendo. However, we recently had the chance to speak with him personally, and sadly, it would seem that his previous comment was merely wishful thinking. Firstly, he says, it wasn't so much that I wanted to make it from a business perspective. I was asked during an interview if I could make a game using a Nintendo character, what would I like to make? I really love The Legend of Zelda, so I answered that if I could make The Adventure of Link, I would be really happy. That story kind of blew up. Probably no thanks to us, Jesse. But it wasn't really something I was thinking about from a business perspective that I would like to make it. Simply that if I could make a game using Nintendo characters, that it would be The Adventure of Link. And I still think that, but our company and I don't really think it is realistic that we could make a game using Nintendo characters. But if after a long time such a miracle could happen, that would be really great. But we think it is unlikely. When asked if Zelda was the only series he would like to work on, he added, well, it is The Legend of Zelda that I really love, right from when it first came out on the Famicom Disk System. I don't think there are any Nintendo characters I'd like to work on other than that. Of course, Nintendo has loads of appealing characters and plenty that you could make a game with. It's really great. I sort of let it be known that I love Adventure of Link. There are plenty of other great games, but that is my favorite. So, I mean, this is kind of non-news, but also like kind of a see that sort of revisited here. I guess Nintendo didn't approach him or anything after he said that, but it still would be really cool to see that remake happen, if however much of a pipe dream it would be. But yeah, Jesse, do you have any thoughts to add?
I kind of just thought that this story would be a good way to kind of segue into discussing which Zelda game or which like older Nintendo game we would like to see be remade. So like something from the GameCube or Wii or Nintendo 64 era. So we can each go through and name off like one Zelda game that we would like to see remade next, and then one normal Nintendo game like Super Mario 64 or Sunshine or something that we would like to see brought to the Switch in HD. So starting with our guest, Shika, do you have a Zelda game in mind that you would like to see remade next?
Oh my god, I would really like the idea of Phantom Hourglass looking like Wind Waker HD.
Good.
Because a remake, you want to like polish up a game that doesn't really hold up, and Phantom Hourglass doesn't look too good, with the restrictions and limitations of the Nintendo DS. So having that look like, because I think personally Wind Waker HD, love the aesthetic of it, and I would even say Wind Waker HD is like the most beautiful game I've ever seen, period. So seeing another game look like that and look that good, with like a complete rework of like the geography too, because Phantom Hourglass, being like super like blocky and square in its design, again because of hardware limitations. And please let me sail on my own and don't have me draw a stupid line. I absolutely hated that. It was
me too.
It was like people thought sailing in Wind Waker was boring. Let's just not sail at all, and it was like more boring. But also being a person that prefers Phantom Hourglass over Spirit Tracks.
Wow.
Hot take.
That is a hot take.
Yeah. I actually had like even more of a problem with riding trains. I thought that was even more boring than riding the boat.
Okay.
And I didn't like. I don't know. I just clicked a bit more with Phantom Hourglass, and guess it's maybe because I played it first, so it's also, I think, more of a personal pick. But Phantom Hourglass looking like Wind Waker HD would be very cool. And for ordinary or standard Nintendo game, I would or like another Nintendo game, it would really be to rematch. I know people about GA, although I would love Prime Trilogy HD, they still like hold up really well graphically. In my opinion, they still look really good even on the original trilogy on the Wii. I mean, Super Metroid also looks very good, but seeing Super Metroid with some kind of crazy new style and new animations and stuff, and staying really faithful to the original, but with a new style, I guess, and like maybe some quality of life improvements, I think that would be very cool. And I think Blue Point is a really good developer to handle it because they're very good with remakes, I think.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so one thing I would add to the Phantom Hourglass remake is giving it the option of traditional controls.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot to say that. They would have to rework. Or
would you have it keep the camera angle, or would you have it look more like Wind Waker to where the camera is behind the back instead of raised up?
I don't know. I sort of like, since you said the option to traditional controls, I would also like the idea of having the original control scheme on the touchscreen on the Switch. Just like in Mario Maker 2, you can use the controller there, but you can also use the touchscreen. So having it like, so I think maybe keep the original perspective, like to at least keep the feel and the vibe. But then have it transition into full 3D with movable camera when you're sailing. I would say that.
I'll do you one better. Make it a 2-pack. Just put both the DS games on one cart, both Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, and just boop,
I mean, I wouldn't say more no to that. More Zelda is better Zelda most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, but some of the dungeons required you to use the touchpad to like draw certain lines and stuff. But the bosses,
I mean, yeah, you could do that with the controller too if you hold a button and you use the control stick. It wouldn't be as intuitive, but I think it could still work, you know.
Yeah, I think it would be similar to like. Sorry.
I believe.
You cut out a few times there. I don't.
Oh, okay. I was. I was just saying that if they can rework Skyward Sword with traditional controls, I think they could rework. Aonuma has said, it would be like impossible to, not impossible. He said one time it would be very difficult to make Skyward Sword HD to rework all the controls, but then Zelda fans being like, it does work, stop it. And I think it could work with Phantom Hourglass too, yeah.
Earlier, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done talking, but it was just that your audio cut out. But I was going to say that drawing the lines in Phantom Hourglass is very similar to the way that the boomerang works, or the Gale boomerang in Twilight Princess, to where instead of drawing a line to the points that you want to hit, or the targets, you have to click on or lock on to the different targets, and then it basically does the same thing to where the boomerang follows the path of the targets that you selected. So there are different ways of them to do it. So that would be interesting. But Daniel,
Absolutely.
what is your Zelda game?
Okay, so actually, I was initially gonna say just make a 2-pack, but since that's not the case, thinking as far as games that have never really gotten a remake or whatnot goes, I would like to see the Oracle games get the Link's Awakening treatment. I think that would be really cool, just because a lot of people
I hear.
haven't played the Oracle games, myself included. It's one of the only Zelda games I haven't played are the Oracle games. So
You get to hop around as a kangaroo in one of them.
Great.
Yeah.
I like that. but,
No, it
but
really
it'd be
is great, because at the time that I was playing through it, my little brother was like 3 or 4 at the time, and he was going through a stage to where he really loved kangaroos. So getting to play as the kangaroo in a Zelda game, which he also liked Zelda games, so it was like 2 of his favorite things coming together. And it was a very random moment as well. I never thought you would be hopping around as a kangaroo in a Zelda game, so that was interesting.
Do whatever they want. the Zelda games just have just weird stuff in them, right? So
Yeah, Marsupial in the chat
Awakening,
says...
hit the volume up. Okay, I can do that. Hang on. I'll just...
Oh no, I was talking about Marsupial saying kangaroo.
Yes, this intrigues me. But yeah, there's an alligator who sells you bananas. Zelda games just have weird right? So
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it would be really cool.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's a magical bubble at the bottom of the ocean floor that has a castle in it. I went there in my talking dragon boat.
Exactly. Zelda games are weird.
Weird games.
Yes.
Weird games.
But we love them. So it's
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, the Oracle games would be really cool to see a remake of, especially with, you know, A Link Between Worlds being sort of like a remake, reimagining slash sequel of A Link to the Past, and then almost every 3D Zelda game now has gotten a remake, almost, and then now Link's Awakening. So the Oracle games and the Minish Cap are kind of the ones, aside from Zelda 1 and 2, that are kind of left like without getting the treatment. As far as other Zelda or other Nintendo in general game goes, I think it's pretty relevant right now. Banjo and Kazooie, anybody? Just port the Xbox Live Arcade versions, even if you have to, over to Switch. With just
Did you see?
You know,
one of, I think it was one of the developers for Banjo Kazooie said that, like they posted on Twitter about wanting the first 2 games to be remade in the same way that like Spyro and Crash Bandicoot were remade.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, it was like the character designer who designed Banjo and Kazooie.
Yeah,
and yeah, and I agree. It would be great. We've gotten a bunch of remakes. We've gotten now Spyro and Crash have gotten their remakes, and those came. Why not Banjo? Why not? Just make it again. Like you can make it a 2-pack game. I just want to put more games on one card. So, but they could easily do that. Like 2 N64 games on 2 very well received, well renowned N64 games. That'll sell.
What would really be amazing is if they put the Rare Replay collection on Switch. That way you would have 30 games on a cart.
Yes, including Banjo.
A lot of people think they might do that because Nintendo and Microsoft are like flirting a bit right now. They have a dev-mans going on, you know, like, hey, put Banjo in Smash.
And it all started with Minecraft, because Nintendo released a console themed after a Xbox first party game. So that was crazy because it was like basically an Xbox game themed or a Microsoft themed 3DS or
Pretty
2DS. So like if Nintendo's going to put like Xbox branding on a Nintendo game or not Nintendo game, on a Nintendo console, and all of the other flirting back and forth that they've had, I could see that because a lot of people didn't think that Banjo would actually come to Smash Brothers. And
Sakurai's the man who makes it happen.
yeah, and like I kind of thought it was obvious that they would, if not Banjo, then someone, because not at this year's E3, but last year's E3, Daniel and I were next to where they who was it, GameSpot? Yeah, GameSpot was interviewing the person in charge of Xbox Live, and they asked him which character from Xbox that he would like to see in Smash Brothers, but he said Master Chief, which I don't think would fit at all.
Maybe he wasn't allowed to say Banjo.
Yeah.
But
like, then again, they had Snake from Metal Gear in Smash Bros. I didn't think that fit either. But
that's because
he did. So
what's the guy's name? Kojima and Sakurai are friends.
Yeah, and
so Kojima actually asked Sakurai to put Snake in Smash Bros.
Yeah, well, they had the Part 3, Metal Gear 3 on 3DS as well.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I think what you brought up, Daniel, is very possible. You know, again with and there was an interview with Phil Spencer where he said that, you know, these things are not a big deal. Like, it's not some paperwork with. It is some. He says like there's not some big paperwork that takes forever. It's just like people just ask. You know, it's not any more complicated than that. So. So getting Rare Replay on Switch would be a very easy deal for both parts. And I also think that speaking about Oracle games, I think that like Nintendo did with both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, I would think they would consider it like they built this engine for Link's Awakening and came up with this art style and this it's almost like a why not situation. It's almost like, okay, we made this engine, we made these assets, but like please the fans, and it will maybe make a lot of money, and there wouldn't be much effort because it's the same engine and the games are so similar. In the Oracle games were technically like, almost like asset flips of Link's Awakening. So
they were,
totally
the originals were, totally like exactly the same look. So, come on, Nintendo, make it.
It would also be really cool to, because the bonus boss at the end of the Oracle games is a version of Ganon. So it would be really interesting to see what Ganon could look like in that art style, to where like you have this big scary looking monster guy, but he looks like all cute and adorable because he's all chibi looking. But yeah. Did you have your other game that wasn't Zelda?
Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh yeah, Banjo.
But now I'm changing to Rare Replay now. Just make it Rare Replay.
Yeah. To be fair, half of the games on Rare Replay
are like N64 games, yeah.
Well, not that, but like, okay, so half of them are like Nintendo 64 games, and the other half is like Super Nintendo games.
Oh yes.
And some of them like what is it? The Toad game.
Battletoads?
Battletoads.
Right.
Like, those games are games that you either remember playing when you were little, or you like seen people talking about them online, but when you go to actually play them, you only play it for like 30 seconds and you're like, this is
that was a game.
Yeah, but Rare Replay, what?
I just said that was a obviously.
Oh yeah. But Rare Replay had this cool thing unless I'm imagining this. I remember a feature that, like when you would go to play Battletoads, as an example, they would have like almost a greatest hits, or sort of like what NES Remix did, to where it had like certain levels, but like redone in a way to where like you can just go and do like a certain challenge. And I think that's the way that Rare Replay had it on some of the older games. Instead of playing through the entire games, you could do that, or you could go to like a file and select it so that you only play like what people would consider the highlights or like the best levels of the game.
Oh, so sort of like the masterpieces in Smash Bros. Brawl. You know what I mean? You know,
no, I do not.
Play this? Okay, so in Brawl on the Wii, there was unlockable bonus.
What's a Wii?
In Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
Yeah, I got
for the
that.
Nintendo Wii.
What's a Wii?
It was the thing. It was like a GameCube, but like two GameCubes duct taped together, and then they gave you a baton. So
okay.
So in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, there was unlockable bonuses. Sakurai's nephew.
Okay.
Okay, so you could unlock these extra bonus demos. Basically, they were called masterpieces, and it was like little demos of different games that these characters were from. So, for
did it have the level where like you had to play as Link and sneak past the Hyrule guards in the castle?
Did not.
Oh,
so but
then it wasn't really like a masterpiece. Was
little like 10-minute demos of these games or something like that, and they would have it not just the beginning of the game, but like basically what people would consider like the highlights of the game. You could go play like 10 minutes of like this one portion of the game. It was really big, like considering how much of a game, like how much information they had for all these games, to store it as like just a bonus thing in like two side menus of Super Smash Bros. It's like it's like, whoa, it's kind of surprising that they put that much into it. I'm not surprised that they left it out of future releases, but it was neat. But yeah, something like that, even where it's just like, okay, these are just like the coolest little snippets of the game. You can play like just these little demos as well, but also have the whole games, the entire games there too, if you're gonna do it. So, because otherwise, where's the fun in that? So
yeah, that's basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they had similar ideas, and it also had well, Smash Bros has it too on like the trophies and stuff, but Rare Replay has like little trivia factoids and stuff about each of the games. It's really cool to go through and look at.
Yeah.
But I guess it's my turn. So the Zelda game that I would do Zelda 2, but completely remade in a Twilight Princess-esque style. So not necessarily
really
like
well, I think.
Yeah, because I don't think it would fit with like the Wind Waker art style. But a more realistic like Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword style, I think it would fit in, and then change it so that instead of like a 2D world, it's like a full 3D world. Because we talked about remaking it sort of like New Super Mario Bros. Or Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS, to where it's 3D character models, but from a side view, so it looks 2D or whatever. But instead of doing it like that, make it so that it's like an actual 3D game. And then like have everything in the same locations in the overworld, because when you look at the overworld from Zelda 2, like it's really huge.
Yeah.
So having that fully realized in 3D, I think would look really cool.
Would they have like the enemies like just walk around? Like imagine if like, there's like a full like Twilight Princess Hyrule field. Would you have the enemies just like walk around, and then when you walk into them, becomes like a random encounter. I mean, I can envision that pretty well, that it would look like almost like Smash Bros, which you were saying with 2D, with 3D models. I can imagine it looking something like that.
Well, that was the old way that we wanted, or that we discussed. But thinking about it now, I would like to see it Twilight Princess. So everything would basically be like Twilight Princess or Twilight Princess HD, to where there's not like the RPG encounter thing, to where like you walk into an enemy and then it takes you to the battle screen or whatever. They would just be walking around in the overworld like normal 3D Zelda enemies.
Would you have the dungeons be 2D as well?
No, they would be 3D as well.
Okay.
There'd have to be a lot of like big reworking for the dungeons, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
but I
it's
think
just
they
a
could
lot
do
of
it.
like long ways, and that.
Yeah, I imagine like, because there's a lot of vertical moving in the dungeons and stuff. So like for stuff like that, I imagine it kind of being like Dodongo's cavern in Ocarina of Time, to where like there's the pillars that rise up and down.
Yeah.
So I imagine like you could do something like that with them, and then
and it's gonna have the most epic Dark Link fight ever, like the Dark Link fight in Ocarina of Time, but like 10 times more epic.
And then
it has to be. It's the final boss. So
well, thinking about it, like imagine like the Thunderbird or whatever his name is, but in full 3D. Kind of like 𝐅𝐸𝐿, or however you pronounce his name, from Twilight Princess. But instead of it being, I don't know, like that boss fight had a lot of potential. And what they did with it was really cool. But I felt like there was so much more that they could have done with it, because you have a realistic looking Zelda game, or at least realistic for the time, and then you get to like this epic dragon fight in like a city in the sky floating around, and you're basically Spider-Man going back and forth between the pillars with the hook shots, or the claw shots. So like there was a lot of cool stuff that they could have done with that. But I imagine something similar to that, but like replace it with the Thunderbird. I think it would be really cool. And I like the idea of like having the towns named after all of the different sages and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's they renamed in the re-releases of Zelda 2, they renamed the fire dragon thing that you fight to 𝐕𝐺𝐬 or 𝐕𝐺𝐬 or something like that. So having another fight with 𝐕𝐺𝐬-esque boss would be really cool, because I like that boss fight in Ocarina of Time, like whack-a-mole.
Are they gonna keep I am Error?
They have to. That's his name.
They have.
that's his name. They have to.
Error in HD 4K ray tracing account. It's gonna sound hard.
And then my the other game would just be Super Mario Sunshine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
With the Odyssey engine. No.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be the new. No. Wow, what was the name of it? Super Mario 3D World.
You think Super Mario 3D World would be a better engine to use?
I like the way Super Mario 3D World looks more than Super Mario Odyssey, because 3D World has like the character model has like a kind of like a cool glow around him. If that makes, like, if you look at it and then look at the Odyssey character model, I like the way that 3D World looks better than
I understand
Odyssey, but I like the way Odyssey plays more than 3D World. So like if they made it look like that, but it still played like Odyssey or Sunshine. I think that would be really cool. And a lot of people think that Nintendo hinted at something to do with Sunshine like a few weeks ago.
Right.
Oh, the infamous tweet, the edited tweet.
I think people are kind of reaching with that one myself. Like,
yeah, when
I don't know.
When it came to the point of like analyzing the hair, that the hair would prove that it's a different render. So it's not the Odyssey render, it's a different render, the same render that they used in the commercial. That was like, you're reaching a bit too far, I think.
Yeah.
I remember the same thing happened, I think before the Switch came out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember. It was
the render of Link?
Yeah, the render of Link that was, I think it was just the Smash Bros. Render of Link, but it was slightly higher quality.
It was a new render. It was like, I'd have to find it now, but it's used in like Nintendo New York store, for example. They have a sign up with that render.
They also have a giant full-sized model of Link.
Yeah, they do. But I think really it's supposed to be, it's like a render of Twilight Princess Link, though. That's the thing. But people like just saw the new render and they're like, this is what it's going to be. And they just have used it for marketing purposes only, right? Like, because obviously that wasn't the one they used for Breath of the Wild. So that's the thing. It's like they have to still have marketing. Like, that's probably all it is, guys. So, yeah.
The version of Link that I thought looked really cool. Did you guys? Well, I know Daniel did, but Sheikah, did you see the Nintendo released the images of like when they were developing Breath of the Wild, and they used the engine for like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword Link, and I had them all standing there. And then they even had they had a cutscene from Twilight Princess where you're in Kakariko Village with the little kids and stuff. They had a screenshot of that cutscene, but in the Breath of the Wild engine, and I thought it looked better than Breath of the Wild does. Well, it looked better than Twilight Princess HD, but I thought it also looked better than Breath of the Wild did. But I imagine those screenshots were just from like computers that were a lot more powerful than the Nintendo Switch is.
Probably, yeah.
So, because they weren't optimized for a Switch or a Wii U or whatever. They were just like screenshots of ideas they had. So, kind of like the Zelda Wii U tech demo that they showed off whenever they first showed off the Wii U. Like, if that would have been a real game, I don't think, like, there's no way that game could have ran on the Wii U. So it looked very, very, very technically advanced. Yeah, like maybe it can render that one small room, but like having a giant Hyrule field and everything, like there's no way that I could have done that. But anyways, those are my things. Sheikah, you have your Zelda fan project that you wanted to talk about the last time. So do you want to go ahead and tell everyone about it